ClickUp lays off 22% workforce. Remaining engineers now face tighter sprint cycles with fewer peers to handle support tickets. That compression typically pushes release quality down within 2 quarters unless automation absorbs the gap. Monday.com and Asana will have to decide whether to cut their own non-core roles next or risk looking bloated next to the new margins. Enterprise customers may see fewer custom integrations shipped on time. Watch the churn numbers in Q3 for the first signal. Huawei unveils Tau scaling law. Transistor timelines just shifted for anyone still betting on traditional EUV roadmaps. Huawei's time-based scaling bets on stacking operational hours instead of cramming more transistors per wafer. If the math holds, SMIC gains breathing room on 5nm class output through 2028. TSMC must either license similar techniques or lock in more US equipment orders to widen the lead again by 2027. Yields on the initial test chips will tell whether the approach survives real fab conditions. Amca raises $300 million for aerospace parts. Defense primes now face a better capitalized supplier that can bid on multi-year contracts without burning cash. Vertical integration on titanium and brackets lets the company undercut legacy machine shops on price while meeting AS9100 traceability. Lockheed Martin and RTX must either bring more work in-house or sign longer-term deals that lock out smaller rivals. Expect qualification timelines for alternative vendors to compress sharply as procurement reacts. First RFPs after close will reveal who adjusts sourcing first. Boston Metal raises $75 million for metals tech. Steel buyers should expect pilot volumes of green primary metal sooner than the usual 5-year lag from lab to plant. The capital extends molten oxide electrolysis trials to niobium and nickel lines that currently rely on carbon-heavy routes. ArcelorMittal and Nucor now need to either match the offtake pricing or accelerate their own hydrogen and electrolysis partnerships before automotive contracts shift. Pricing signals from the first 10,000-ton runs will set the pace. Radar hits $1 billion valuation with $170 million. Inventory accuracy at scale just became a board-level metric for any retailer still running cycle counts manually. The raise funds expansion of RFID readers into more distribution nodes. Walmart and Target will have to integrate similar real-time feeds into their ERP systems or accept higher shrinkage variances than peers. The delta in reported inventory turns will separate adopters from laggards by year-end. Watch the next earnings season for mentions of inventory write-down reductions as the proof point. Circuit Hub raises $28 million for manufacturing. Component pricing swings hit prototype runs hardest. This round lets the platform lock key suppliers into 12-month forward contracts with fixed pricing, something rivals skip to avoid carrying inventory on their books. Hardware teams now get reliable 3-week turns even during shortages. Larger assemblers will either match those terms or lose the Series B cohort entirely by mid-2026. The quoting accuracy gap widens first on high-mix orders where variance costs compound fastest. Expect reduced buffer stock across funded hardware startups. Cagent Vascular raises $41 million for devices. Legacy device makers priced angioplasty around drug coatings for years. Ceration alone now lets operators treat harder lesions at lower reimbursement tiers, cutting facility costs by hundreds per case. Boston Scientific and Medtronic must either drop kit prices or run new trials proving coated versions deliver measurable outcome gains inside 18 months. Outpatient centers adopt first because they face the tightest per-procedure margins. Watch 2025 renewals for the initial price adjustments. Braemy raises $33 million for plant-based snacks. Retail expansion for Lupini Snacks keeps hitting sourcing limits on Mediterranean beans. The capital targets owned processing lines that could double throughput by late 2025. Smaller plant protein brands stuck with contract manufacturers will see their margins compress first. Whole Foods can push slotting fees lower once Braemy reaches national distribution. Expect direct sourcing clauses to appear in every new brand deal within 2 years. Benefit Bay raises $18 million for benefits platform. Employers have delayed ICHRA adoption over enrollment complexity. Benefit-based automation now handles individual market flows at scale, which could lift participation past 30% inside 2 years. United Healthcare and similar carriers must launch their own ICHRA wrappers or risk losing group volume to direct employee models. Smaller brokers lose commission streams first as the platform bypasses their traditional role. Find raises $21 million for workforce software. Biometric time clocks have long triggered privacy objections on factory floors. FindUp bundles state-specific break and overtime rules into one dashboard, letting operators manage multi-state crews without separate spreadsheets. UKG will either add comparable compliance engines or lose distribution center deals on price. The first account losses surface among hourly teams spanning 3 or more jurisdictions by next summer. Nourish raises $100 million for nutrition platform. Medicare Advantage pilots already show nutrition counseling cuts diabetes admissions by double digits. This platform locks in that channel at scale. Expect hospital dietitian programs to see referral volume fall 25% by Q4 next year as plans steer patients to covered telehealth. Smaller independent practices feel it first. The ones without integrated apps lose the downstream revenue from lab work and medication adjustments they used to capture. Payers gain the data layer that lets them tighten future reimbursement bands. Father raises $150 million for wealth management. High net worth households now expect private market sleeves inside their main advisory relationship. Father's model makes that the baseline. Data from similar platforms shows 18% annual attrition when access lags. Traditional RIAs without direct deal flow will see client churn accelerate once tax loss harvesting alone stops differentiating. The larger brokerages face a quiet deadline: build equivalent access inside 2 years or watch fee compression spread from the top 5% of households downward. Wirehouse planning cycles already reflect the timeline. Commure raises $70 million for health systems. Large hospital systems already run internal benchmarks showing 12-day average delay on appealed claims. Commure's automation targets exactly that interval. Expect denial write-off percentages to drop another 3 points at adopting sites by the end of next fiscal year. That margin improvement lands before most CFOs finish their current Epic optimization budgets. The shift also reduces the appeal volume routed to external agencies. Smaller vendors in the rev cycle stack now lose the integration layer they once sold as a service. Eisen raises $10 million for compliance software. Escheatment deadlines now trigger automated workflows instead of manual spreadsheets at mid-size banks. State auditors are increasing sampling rates on unclaimed property filings this cycle. Regional institutions without this layer will face remediation costs that exceed the software license within a single exam cycle. Larger custodians gain a new benchmark for adequate controls during their reviews. The real constraint remains 20,099 data matching accuracy that regulators begin scoring next year. Most compliance heads already adjusted 2025 headcount plans accordingly. Kin Health raises $9 million for Care Companion. Visit notes now get summarized and queued for follow-up without the physician typing after the patient leaves. Groups running the app report reclaiming 8 minutes per encounter. That time compounds into capacity for 1 additional appointment daily once adoption clears the first month. Independent practices gain the most because they lack dedicated scribes. The carriers already track documentation completeness in their risk models. Expect malpractice carriers to start offering premium credits for documented next step tracking within the next renewal cycle. Remote Pass raises $17.4 million for HR platform. Compliance coverage in 150 countries is the new battleground, and this capital injection targets exactly that gap. Existing platforms must now match certification speed or concede ground on mid-market deals within the next 12 months. The funding lets Remote Pass hire local tax specialists at a pace bootstrapped rivals cannot match. Sales teams at growing companies will start asking for those certifications in requests for proposal by early next year. Competitors must now decide whether to raise soon or absorb those compliance costs in future pricing. Benji raises $6.3 million for Loyalty API. Most loyalty integrations still require weeks of engineering work per partner. This round accelerates the shift to plug-and-play connections that bypass those timelines. Brands gain the ability to test new rewards partners quarterly instead of annually. That change pressures established loyalty vendors to publish public APIs or see their integration services lose relevance among mid-size marketing teams by Q4 next year. Smaller brands especially benefit from avoiding custom development altogether. Blank Bio raises $7.2 million for biotech tools. Clinical data reviews in oncology move slowly because progression signals hide in scattered patient records. Blank Bio targets that bottleneck directly with specialized tooling. Larger contract research organizations now have to integrate comparable analysis features or accept that sponsors will route early-stage work to teams equipped with tighter data loops inside 18 months. Sponsors gain faster iteration without expanding internal headcount. LeadBay raises $4.3 million for B2B leads. B2B lead lists often decay within weeks of purchase. LeadBay's focus on live market signals changes the refresh cycle for sales teams. This forces database vendors to layer real-time monitoring on top of their existing feeds or lose accuracy claims when prospects compare win rates head-to-head. Teams running high-volume outbound will start demanding signal freshness in every renewal conversation by next summer. Foundation raises $6.4 million for crypto wallets. Hardware wallet adoption stalls, mainly on the setup steps that still intimidate new users. The Envoy app and Passport updates target that friction with better mobile flows. Traditional finance platforms will feel pressure to support direct key exports or risk users defaulting to standalone devices for larger holdings over the coming year. Onboarding volume at dedicated hardware makers should rise once the pairing process drops below 5 minutes.